Morning. Oh wait, can you guys hear? Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh. Hey, Mad Blender. Can did somebody say, did you guys say whether or not you could hear me? Because I'm trying something different today. I'm trying these headphones because we've been having some feedback. Hey, Ren Skywalker. Good morning. Oh, you can hear me. Great. And is it like clear? What does my shirt say? My shirt says, I do not consent to this shirt." And I'm gonna tell you. Oh yeah, you can hear me. Okay, so Mad Blender asked, "What does your shirt say, Reg?" And so I figured I would go ahead and wear a T-shirt. In fact, I think I may be making some brief videos all week, um, featuring some of the T-shirts that are the most meaningful to me. This T-shirt was part of a campaign to stop the policy or to change the policy for stop, question, and frisk, which is a problem nationally in the U.S., but was a particular problem in New York City, where every year the number of people stopped by the police was increasing by 100,000. So one year it would be 500,000, the next year it was 600,000, and it had gotten to the point where it was about to reach 1 million. And some coalition building happened in New York City, and there was activism happening everywhere. And in my community, we came up with this idea to print these shirts with information that would be crucial to people who were targeted by the police. So, and it was things that you might say, what to do if you're stopped by the police. And it was inspired by the New York City NYULC, I believe it's like the New York City branch of the ACLU. And so the shirts were designed somewhat to echo the NYCLU campaign. And what we did was we gave the T-shirts to specifically, we were aiming to get them to young men of color who were the highest target of people who were being stopped by the police. 90% of them were people of color, black and Latinos. Of the people stopped by the police, 90% of them were innocent of any wrongdoing whatsoever. So it was really just you don't have any sound, Brian? You can't hear me? Uh-oh. Oh no. So that mutes me. Um is there anyone else who Oh. Hey, vegan Sista. So, welcome everybody. Okay, we're getting a little group here. Hey, Marine is here. Privileged Vegan is here. Let's see who's in the room right now. We got Kearney. We have Ren Skywalker. We have Brian from the Onion Knight. We have Vegan Sister. We have Matt Blender. We have a Privileged Vegan. I'm super, super excited. Yeah, everybody show love. Okay, you got the sound now going, Brian? All is good. Okay, so one thing, we got to jump in. I think we have some folks who are going to talk today, right? Yeah? You guys are ready to jump in on this topic? So before we jump in, I just want to review a little bit of this article that I was sharing with all of you. So the question of third-party voting came up. Specifically Brian Hernandez at the Onion Knight has been creating content around this issue for months now, and I'm going to tell you, Brian, I was slow on the ball. I do follow the channel, but with the 30-day, and you called it out with the 30 videos in 30 days, I really fell off the wagon, and uh, the focus of my videos, I didn't bring up the idea of politics with this election coming up and this, a really important election coming up. And so my penance to you, Brian, has been to really dive in and start attempting to better understand the way our political system functions or doesn't function. So that's a question that I hope that people are going to be answering. So I sent out a link to an article by John Uebersax. Now, just a little bit background: John Uebersax is running for U.S. Congress in California's 24th district. He's an independent Green libertarian anti-war candidate, and the principles of his campaign are peace, solidarity, and vision. But most of all, peace. Those are John Uebersax's own words. And the article was "Why Vote Third Party?" And in this article, I mean, the article isn't so lengthy, but he really tries to sum up the article in an outline at the top, and includes plenty of links of interest. And what Uebersax is saying in the article is that we effectively have staged elections in which the establishment, and he includes in the establishment, he's talking about the system, right? He includes the power elite, the military, industrial, banking, oil, media complex, or what he calls it. And they present us two status quo candidates, a Republican and a Democrat. And that there is an active strategy to prevent voters from voting for non-establishment candidates. And they use a divide and conquer strategy. They choose platforms that polarize voters. They have candidates that are frightening to people from both parties. By this means they manipulate voters into attempting to keep the more feared candidate from winning. So they're voting for the candidate that they believe will win as opposed to the candidate of their real choice. And they include in this strategy hot button issues like healthcare, gay marriage, taxing the rich, etc., to scare voters on both the left and the right. And the news media he indicts as well for helping to inflame emotions on all sides. And the result of this strategy has been pretty successful, because 98% in the 2012 election voted for the establishment candidates. And so throwing that out, I hope people had a chance to read the article, dig in, and come up with some perspectives on that. Does somebody see? Where's Jack? Where is he? Yeah, he is. Oh my goodness. Wow. Good eye. Whoever saw him. Good eye. Hey, Redneck to Vegan. Welcome. So what I'm hoping is today we can have a discussion about that. Now, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. I got a confirmation that David Cross, who is the campaign manager for the Stein Baraka campaign, is on a call at this very moment, but is going to be trying to jump off that call to come and talk to us for a little bit. So at some point, if either a call comes in from David Cross, I'll just put him on speakerphone so that we can all listen to him. And the hope is, however, that he's going to be able to jump on using YouNow, which I don't think he had done previously. But we're going to see how clever David Cross is as the campaign manager for the Green Party candidates. So I hope that will be exciting for everyone. But I just want to let you know that if someone is speaking, what we might have to do is cut in a little bit, let David jump on, and then we'll bring that person back, because I really do like to allow everyone, at least 10 minutes to, have their full say. Obviously, if you don't have 10 minutes worth of, stuff to say, then we'll slow it down. I want to thank everyone for your support of the GoFundMe campaign, which continues to just funds are trickling in, and already some huge purchases have been made to tackle the windows. And in fact, I'm fairly certain that the next episode of Convertible is gonna, have me and Ethan here working on the house, because I don't know if we have time to really stop weatherizing the house, because it's getting cold in here. So I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but I'm vamping a little bit here because I'm hoping somebody will jump in to guest. I know that there's a lot to say on these issues. I have just, not really some prompts, but the what I sent to David was, talking about, first of all, looking at the culture of resentment towards third-party candidates, the importance of having third-party representation in national elections specifically, and talking about the best ways to harness the power of third-party voting. Okay. Somebody's going. I think, let me see what's happening here. Okay, yeah, got it. Something happens. Secure sound. People have the sound. Okay, so Marine's got sound. That is great. Let me see. Checking mute, sound. I hope everybody has their sound. It says, vegan Sista, it says, IWOLL talk in chat. I'm out, unfortunately. I'm not sure what you meant, vegan Sista. But money in politics has damaged the system. That's I think a lot of people might agree with that. I hope we hear from some folks on that issue, the effect of campaign financing on the system being corrupt. I like to say, is it broken or is it working just the way it's supposed to? Is it broken, our system, or is it functioning as intended? Thanks for becoming a fan, Marco5. Oh, cool. Yeah, great. Okay, vegan Sista. So you're going to hang with us. You're not going to jump on and guess, but you're going to hang with us, which is acceptable. I hope you'll have great questions for all of our guests. However, so who's coming on? Do I have to call people out by name? I don't want to make anyone wait. Like everybody, I'm so excited to talk to all of you. So, Redneck to Vegan was out waving and holding a sign yesterday during our local early voting locations. So, what was the mood out there, Redneck to Vegan? I mean, we're talking chat here very well. Anyone very well could jump in and be a guest right now. I mean, certainly I'm going to keep flipping through and trying to respond to your Mad Blender. Thank you for inviting 32 fans to this broadcast. So, Redneck to Vegan, you're supporting someone for superintendent. NPA is NPA. Okay, so that's a link that I should check. I'm going to go ahead and open that link in a new tag and see what Rocky Hanna. That's who is running for superintendent in your area, and you're and is it? I hope it's okay to say that you're, because I think you've mentioned it in the comments section on the channel that you're in Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah. Huge turnout, many people excited, which I guess is good news to know that people are still interested in engaging in this system, as broken or not as it might be. All right, so we have our first guest hopping on. Y'all, this is Brian Hernandez from the Onion Night, here to talk to us a little bit about. Hey, Brian.
Hey everyone. Thank you for having me again. I've been super sick, and if you look at the last 2 weeks' videos, that's why I seem pretty lethargic and stuff, and this week as well. And I think it probably has to do with my coverage of the election. I think it might be making me sick.
It's like, these politicians make me sick. That sounds like something that's what my mother would say. She would say, literally. Oh, they make me sick.
And I'd agree with her.
Yeah. So what do you think in particular? What do you think is eating at you most about this election?
What eats at me the most? Man, that's I would have to say that it seems that people don't understand that they need to turn off their television. There's there's two medias in the world right now. There's a media that exists on television that is largely fabricated, and a media that exists on the internet. While there is fabrication on the internet, there's also the truth on the internet, where you just don't get the truth when you turn it when you're looking in front of a TV.
Okay, so your sound got a little uh, garbled there, but I think what you were saying is people need to get away from the television set and stop using the television set as their main source of information on the election and candidates. Get on the internet. I suppose get out into the world too. Meet people if they can actually, go to where these candidates are speaking. I suppose, but I'm thinking that you're talking about looking at these candidates' histories. How are they voting? What are their track records? To really get a sense of what they've done compared to what they have to say about themselves.
Correct. There's what's listed on their party platform, and then there's what they actually do in real life. And we need to actually have a solid understanding of what is truth and what's fiction. So there's young people tend to get their news from the internet. The older crowd tends to get their news from television, which is why, despite Hillary Clinton's history with mass incarcerations and the crime bill and all that kind of stuff like that, Black Americans largely voted for her because that's what they see to do on TV. It's just a lot of misinformation on television that people need to. And I made that voting vegan in part one, talking about how we need to get issues onto media so that we move the conversation that we're having on the internet that everyone seems to be aware of and has good information on, and move that onto the television so that your parents, your grandparents are seeing the same stuff and getting the same information that we have.
Do you think that's what happened with Donald Trump? Do you think sort of the people that were doing work, posting things to the leaking things to the internet, are what forced the mainstream media to kind of take up those issues? I mean, I know probably the thing that most people are talking about and are aware of now are his comments about his sexist comments that were made. But that's something that started on the internet and then was picked up by the mainstream media. Are you seeing that as even possibly a strategy for activists?
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking.
I guess I'm saying that because you were garbled a little bit, and I just want to be clear. I'm trying to reiterate what I think I hear you saying. Are you saying that what we have to do is get the information that's on the internet and somehow with intention move that information to the mainstream media?
Correct. We need to have facts on television, not distorted reality and kind of propaganda at this point.
Okay. So Brian, just in terms of I don't know if you had a chance to look at the Uebersax article, but just the idea that the two-party system that we have now is part of a strategy for the political elite to maintain control. What are your thoughts about that, and how do you see that manifesting?
He's absolutely right. They essentially have created a predatory capitalist system that is controlled by an elite group of people that buy candidates of both parties in a system that is built on a two-party system. So if they have control of both parties, it doesn't matter which one you you want to vote for. They, in the end, will win with only, like I was saying in voting vegan part two, the minutia that is the differences between these two candidates in this election and the election before that and the election before that. Um, so yeah, he's absolutely right. How he breaks it down is in terms of, fear voting, like vote for the one that that you're trying to block. Um, that's true to a great extent, but I think the larger problem is that Americans have become so apathetic that they have given up. And this is something that I've had to fight people on. So, yes, it's bad, but it's not proof. This is something that I've had to keep repeating during this election cycle.
Can you say that? You got a little garbled there. Can you repeat that last thing that you said, Brian?
I was saying that apathy is also one of the biggest problems that we have, and I had to keep repeating this during this election cycle. The system is broken and the system is corrupt, but it's not bulletproof.
Okay.
There's weaknesses, and if you're paying attention, you can see them. Specifically right now, the system is very weak. Like I mentioned last week when we were talking, there's a guy named Evan McMullin in Utah who's going to, he might beat Hillary Clinton. So any random citizen that runs that's not a politician has the ability to beat Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. And that's because those people in Utah are principled and they won't vote for either candidate, a sexist, racist, xenophobic, psychopath, or embodiment of everything that's wrong with our political process right now in Hillary Clinton. Instead, those people, I guess Utah is largely Mormon, and they take their principles really seriously, it seems, because Christians aren't doing that. Christians aren't saying no to Donald Trump because he is everything that they are, like the opposite of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? They don't care.
Brian, I have to say, every time you come on, you say 3 or 4 things that I have to have you come back, because now we got to talk about that. Now we have to talk about, the question, the impact of faith on the political system and how that becomes another ideological apparatus to maintain the status quo. But I'm going to say this. I really want to make sure that we have time to get everybody up here. Brian, I could talk to you forever. But is there any last words you'd like to share before you jump off and we bring on another guest who I will call on if there's not someone up there by the time Brian is done?
The last thing I need to say is that everyone right now is very fearful of a Donald Trump presidency. And what's happening is that people aren't using an effective strategy to block that. If you are fearful of Donald Trump presidency, listen very closely. Stop focusing your attention on yelling at people who are voting third party. 14% of the country is voting third party. And guess who those people are? Principled people that will not vote for either candidate like I just described, and because of the reasons that I just described. With 41% of the country voting for Donald Trump, you have a huge opportunity there to go after people who are abandoning their principles to vote for a racist, sexist, xenophobic, sexual predator, and half of the country is female. 51% of the country is female. So that guy has offended 51% of those people that are voting for him. If you don't want Donald Trump to be president, go after Republican women and explain to them that they cannot vote for someone who's looking at their 10-year-old daughter and thinking about how badly he wants to fuck her. Woo. That is how you beat Donald Trump. You do not yell at people who are voting third party, who are doing the right thing, and not voting for a psychopath or Hillary Clinton, who is the embodiment of everything that's wrong with this country. Out.
All right. All right, Brian, thank you. Leave it on some strong words, and I hope people have something to say about what Brian's remarks. Um, I want to call some people up here. You know, I'm going to say this. I see. I'm seeing a familiar. I'm seeing Ruthie E down here, and I think that that might mean that um, we have a guest. Maybe about to be coming up. Maybe Ruthie. Is your being here right now, Ruthie, a really good sign? Should I get myself all ready uh, to invite our guest in, or is that gonna be on hold? Okay, nope, not yet. Okay, all right, so we'll hold off on that. But the fact that you're here is a great sign, Ruthie. I'm glad you're here, and that means you also figured out how to use the YouNow. And the guest feature. If Are you Ruthie? Are you on your phone or are you on a computer? Cool. And meanwhile, Maureen, who is it? You're in the room right now as a privileged vegan. So I don't know. I don't know if I should say a privileged vegan or Maureen Janine, but you're here. You're coming. You're coming from a long way, and I would love to hear your perspective as someone who has been in the U.S. for a long time. You're right now. Right now, you happen to be out of the country, but I'd love to get a sense of what the perspective, from what your perspective is on what is happening in the U.S. right now in terms of this election, and how, as far as you can observe, it's being received by people in other countries, or at least in France. I also want to say hello to the Kissed Vegan. I want to say hello to Vegan Dreams. Welcome. Try Vegan. Welcome. Um, and we've got so many people in here, and we've got about a half an hour left. So maybe we'll limit our guests to want to say 5 minutes, just to be fair, to make sure everyone has. Oh, so Maureen Janine is saying I don't know how to guest. So are you Maureen Janine? Are you on your phone or are you on a computer? And if you're on a computer, there should be, there's me. I'm on the screen. I wish I could show a picture. I could actually kind of show myself, but I don't want y'all to see my desk. So there's me, and to the right of me, there should be a chat box with a scroll. Not go live. If you go down just a little bit, there is a thing that says if you push go live, you're actually going to start broadcasting. There's a go live button, but then below that, there's a chat, there's an audience, and there's a guest feature. So Brian is saying it's the guest green box. So Ren Skywalker is saying I don't think a lot of people understand about third-party voting. So there was an article by John Uebersax that I sent out some links to and talked about in some things previously. What we're talking about is the idea in the United States that there are two major parties, and these are establishment parties. They are supported by the political elite and function as a control mechanism, because these parties are so entrenched as part of the system. And the idea that there are other parties that are running. There's a Green Party. There's the Constitution Party. There's Working Families parties. There's the Humane Party. It happens to be the Vegan Party, with Clifton Roberts running as a vegan candidate with a vegan platform, and running with Dr. Amy Breeze Harper as the vice presidential candidate. Clifton Roberts and the Humane Party they're right. They didn't make the ballot, so they're write-in candidates. Brian on his channel, The Onion Knight, has talked about the Green Party, and that the Green Party may have actually been influenced by the Humane Party to kind of up their rhetoric about animal rights. So the understanding is that these 30 third-party candidates shift the national dialogue away from the mainstream and towards issues that many in the country may find more compelling than what we're being offered by these two major candidates. And what we're talking about today is, oh, I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to welcome. Hey, we got. I'm welcoming right now Marine Janine, who's coming to us right now live from Paris.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome.
Hi, Reg.
Your
Hey,
lighting,
everyone.
your lighting is amazing right now. I'm embarrassed.
Is it?
Yeah, you look great.
Oh, great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're bright and shiny. So,
It's very cold in
welcome.
my house, so I'm wearing
It's cold.
covers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. And I'm guessing that you've been following the discussion. You've been following Brian on the Onion Night. I'm guessing you had a chance to look at. You've seen some of the videos that I've made talking about this issue of third-party candidates. What are your thoughts as someone who's lived both in the United States and is now abroad?
Well, first of all, I got to have an interview with Brian that'll be up on my channel at some point, so definitely look out for that. But he's been sick, so we're taking a little while to edit it. But I change my mind a lot. I feel like it's very hard to for me to determine if voting third party, if voting at all, if electoral politics at all matter. I think that local politics matter more than just the big elections that happen every 4 years. But I mean, I wrote down a few bullet points just because they're just theories that I find interesting, but that are pretty they are on all sides of the argument. But so sometimes I feel I don't know. I don't think electoral politics matter that much, just because every single 4 years we hear that these are the most important elections yet, right? And I think that people are always pushed to vote out of fear, and basically this has been ongoing for so long in the two-party system. And I'm just not sure that there's anything very different about the elections this year. Because I think that, in the end, the profit motive is so strong in the capitalist system that no matter who kind of wins the election is going to just go in the direction of where the money is. When we look at, for example, the prison situation in the United States, both the left and the right have a really horrible track record of growing mass incarceration in the United States, and that's because you have private companies that are, lobbying for the electors, for the people that get into power, and then they basically have to fill those prisons with a 90% occupancy rate all the time. So even if they're pushing policies that are supposedly more progressive and pushing incarceration, diminishing it, in the end you still have so many people involved in the criminal justice system, because I think that the profit motive is still dictating all of it. I mean, even though under Obama we saw a really slight reduction in prison population, it was, the deportation, the population in deportation camps skyrocketed, and okay. Oh my God, I have a lot of different points that I want to make. But and I talked a little bit about this with Brian, but I'm torn between voting for Clifton Roberts or the Green Party if I vote third party, just because I know that if the Green Party, I believe that if they attain more than 5%, then they're going to get a lot of federal funding. I'm pretty sure there's a threshold that allows them to get more airtime and get more federal funding. So I'm wondering if it's not more useful to put my vote towards a third-party candidate that is going to matter more. So I'd be super open to hearing people's thoughts on that. The other argument that I hear a lot is that it's privileged to vote for Hillary, to not vote for Hillary Clinton because, and I think this is a fear tactic, but people tell you, okay, well, you're not one of the 10 million immigrants that are going to be deported if Hillary comes into power. So, essentially by voting with your conscience and voting third party, you're giving Donald Trump a bigger opportunity. And so you're doing that because you're privileged. That argument has it sort of gets on my nerves just because I think Hillary's foreign policy is really atrocious. So I think that it's also a privileged position to say that it's better to vote for Hillary just because her politics and her foreign policy, like in Syria, is just as bad as Donald Trump's, and the same with support to Israel and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's also a thought I have. And then
and we've been talking about the situation in Syria for a couple of weeks, on several channels, certainly on I think definitely I think I lost a subscriber for failing to talk enough about Hillary Clinton and not Hillary Clinton so much, but U.S. policy in Syria and how we could effectively be heading towards another war, a war with Russia over this. Is that something that you? I guess what one of the things that I was maybe hoping to hear is your sense of what's the temperature in France right now that you sense towards the U.S. I don't want to start an incident. I don't want to start an international incident here, but like, what are people frightened of these candidates?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I know that there was a lot of excitement around Bernie Sanders when he first, when he was doing so well, at least in the leftist progressive camp. But I think right now people are really disillusioned, and I've only heard people just say it's a complete joke, essentially. That a lot of people ask me, well, do you think that Donald Trump actually has a chance? Are they actually for real? Is this serious? And then, my answer, I guess, changes from week to week. But I think that people know very little about the election. Up until pretty recently, Hillary Clinton had a very, very good image in France, I feel like. People liked her. I think that has maybe changed because her popularity has decreased more and more in the United States. But I don't think I hear a lot about the U.S. elections basically when people are saying, are very disillusioned about the political situation in France, don't know who the hell they're going to vote for. And then they're like, but, it could be worse. We could be in the U.S. and the situation is even more of a joke there. I don't know if that is a very satisfying answer.
Well, it's just it was something that I was interested in to really have this question answered thoroughly, not thoroughly, but more satisfactorily. Factorily, I feel like we'd have to have a lot of people coming from outside of the United States just talking about what the perception of the U.S. is in those areas, and we may do that. I think we might be able to do something like that before the election, maybe next Sunday, just to get a sense of how people are feeling. That might actually be an interesting focus for our last conversation. One thing that I also wanted to do is just get some information, like Brian is saying, just having information on those candidates that might change people's perception of who they are and what they might do if they were to be elected to that office. So we don't have someone waiting in to guess, but I do want to make sure that you get all your points in. So were there other things that you felt like you really wanted to share with us today coming on?
Yeah, there's one last point, and I actually posted about this on my Facebook page. So I'm kind of just tempted to read the post because it's pretty short.
Come on.
But I don't know if you saw a Natural Vegan's video about the elections. Did people see that? Where she's basically saying that Hillary Clinton is the best president for for vegans and for the environment?
I did not see it.
No. Okay. Well, there's a lot to say about that video.
But we could check it out. If you pop in a link in the chat, then people can grab that and have it, or you can send it to me in a message, and I'll put it in the description box for this broadcast once it's posted on YouTube.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Well, I'll send it in the chat afterwards. But I mean, I was pretty shocked by it. I actually talked with Brian about it briefly yesterday. And he was like, it's just absolutely wild that she is saying that Hillary Clinton is by far the best candidate. But so my post said, after watching Unnatural Vegan's video on the presidential election, I've spent the entire morning and part of the afternoon researching nuclear energy. Oh, right, because the point that she makes is that nuclear energy, that Jill Stein wants to ban nuclear energy, and that nuclear energy is actually, much cleaner than coal and oil. And it is better we can't stop it now and totally replace it with wind and solar, which I think not knowing that much about nuclear energy, I was like, I don't agree with her, but after researching nuclear energy more, I think the answer is a little more complex. But I said that also I feel that supporting Hillary Clinton as the most environmentally friendly candidate of this election completely disregards her pro-war, pro-militarism, pro-capitalist stance on world affairs, which will have a hugely negative impact on the environment. Mm-hmm. I said that we live in a capitalist system in crisis that is by definition unsustainable. And whether we use fossil fuels, nuclear energy, or renewable energy, we're fucked if we don't radically change the system to one of closed loop production, sustainability, local living. So again, I feel like from these debates, every time what's missing is that it doesn't matter if our policies are more environmentally friendly, if our energy is cleaner. It matters to some degree, but I think that as long as we live in this system that is a linear system on a finite planet, it's I don't know what to do, because I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking down here, and I'm seeing if there's any questions for you down here. I think you've got a lot of people greeting and excited to see you. I want to say.
Oh, by the way,
hi.
I've decided to change my name back. Which is why
I'm dropping you. I'm dropping you from this. No.
Your name was a really close runner-up, but okay, hear me out. I went to Veg Fest and everyone called me a privileged vegan. It was like, you're a privileged vegan, and then it would totally break the mood. I'd be like, my name's Janine now. And they'd be like, girl, why?
Oh my goodness. Hold on. Let's see. First of all, I can, for days. I love that I'm actually here because I don't have to make little smileys. I didn't have to have the smiley with the big tears coming out of its eyes while it's laughing. But I think that's, I call you, I think I still call you privileged vegan.
Yeah, exactly.
Often.
You actually said that. You were like, and Marina's coming, formerly a privileged vegan. And I was like, people are going to be sick.
I want to, who else? So Michelle, a big screen bird is here. Anna S is here. Hello. The Kissed Vegan is here. There's a lot of really amazing people. Play R3 Wine. Welcome. So hold on a second. Let me see what's going here. Okay, so we have someone up in the queue, and so Maureen, before you hop off, is there anything else, any final words for the people?
No, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be chilling with you, Reg. I miss that.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I'm happy your fundraiser is going so well, and I hope that
Thank you so much.
the video in a little bit, but
I'm gonna be shirtless hopefully by the time it's over. But yeah, I'm excited about it too.
Oh, for sure. I want one of the coasters.
Yeah, okay, that's gonna happen. Oh, by the way, I just have some of them here. None of the none of the coasters that I've been showing you guys, by the way, are the actual coasters. These are all like the mock-ups. The real coasters are going to be made from wood from the house. And so these were just like, this is kind of what they're going to look like. It's going to be a picture of the house imprinted on a piece of wood from the house that's been milled at tech shop. So that said, Maureen Janine, I'm going to say goodbye to you right now. Not goodbye. I'm going to say see you later.
Yeah.
And happy Devil's Night and happy Halloween and all that stuff.
Thank you. I'm not dressing up.
All right,
okay.
Now.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye. All right. So I'm seeing. It looks like we have our next guest coming right up. I'm really excited, you guys. This has been a great. Hey, David, is that you?
It's me. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. So I want to introduce our next guest. This is David Cross.
David Cobb, C-O-B-E.
David Cobb. I'm so sorry, David Cobb, and I have been typing David Cobb and saying David Cross for the last 2 days. So please do forgive me. And David, you're managing a campaign right now, yes?
That's correct. I have the honor and the privilege and the responsibility for managing the presidential campaign for Jill Stein and Ajamu Baraka on the Green Party ticket.
Oh, cool. So welcome. So I'm guessing you have a lot to say about third-party candidates and the importance of running third-party candidates.
So, Reg, the first thing I'd like to do is I know that is a phrase that is used, but I personally use alternative party candidates because the reality is that there's of course the Democratic and the Republicans, what I would call the corporate establishment parties. There's also the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Constitution Party, the Reform Party, the Socialist Party. So there's lots of other parties. But the reality is really there are four, here, let me get this, where is it? There are four major parties that are actually functioning in the United States today. There's the Democratic and Republican Party, which are the establishment parties. And then the Libertarian Party and the Green Party are both in the mix. And I think it's important to recognize the current system is not just designed to prevent the success of those alternative parties. It's literally designed to prevent our existence, right? So we're not just, the fact that we're here is kind of a testament to the commitment to the values. The Green Party is an international phenomenon where we are actually in government all across the world, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in South and Central America. Not in the United States, because of a voting system that's forcing voters to feel like they have to choose between two parties. It's called the single-member district or first past the post, winner take all. It's a voting system that's forcing you to feel like you have to vote against the candidates that you hate rather than for the ones you want. So there is a solution to that called ranked choice voting, and we can get into that if you want. But I do want to keep it at big picture for a moment, Reg, and recognize this. If you or your viewers are basically satisfied with the system as it exists and just want to tinker at the margins, then probably you should choose as between Trump or Clinton. But if, like me, you think that there are fundamental structural systemic flaws in this country, if you, like me, believe this country is fundamentally racist, fundamentally sexist, fundamentally class oppressive, and that the huge transnational corporations are not just exercising power, but are literally ruling over us, have literally hijacked our government, and are literally destroying the planet that we depend upon for life itself. See, if you believe those things, then I submit to you, you've got to actually be willing to stop voting for the candidates and the parties that are the establishment, right? And the last thing I'll say before, because I know I'm on a rant, but I do want to open it up for conversation.
We ran a lot in not only on YouTube but specifically in the vegan community. We like to rant, so come on.
So I'll say this: let's remember what it took alternative parties to champion at the ballot box, right? because the ability to make systemic change in this country is actually the formula to do it is actually very easy to describe, but Reg, it's super hard to do. But let's just describe it. One, you need a social movement that is in the streets, in the pool halls, in the bowling alleys. In every way, you need to shift the culture. You need to change how people think, right, and how people act. But just doing that is not enough, because in addition to that social movement, you also have to have an electoral arm of that movement running people for office who can get elected to change public policy to reflect that cultural shift. So you need a social movement in the streets, and you need an electoral arm of that movement to elect people to office to change law, legislation, and policy. Now that I've done that, let's point out this is what it took alternative political parties to champion at the ballot box successfully in this country. The abolition of slavery, women getting the right to vote, the creation of the Social Security Administration, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation laws, pure food and drug laws, ending child labor, the direct election of the United States Senate, the 40-hour work week and the weekend. For goodness sakes, Reg, the entire fabric of what we today would consider the bare damned minimum for a just and compassionate society, that fabric was woven together thread by thread, issue by issue, by alternative political parties. Parties that did their work when they were called naive or unrealistic, parties who did their work when they were called dangerous un-Americans with crazy ideas, and parties and candidates who did their work when they were called spoilers. So today, if you want to live in a new world, not just talk about it, but if you want to actually live in a world that will end war as foreign policy, if you want to live in a world that will abolish student debt and guarantee a college education as part of public education so that you have a right not just to K through 12 in this country as we currently do, high school, but a right to K through 16, which would include 4 years of university as a right. If you want to make sure to guarantee a living wage for every person who works in this country, if you want to make sure that we transition off of coal and oil and onto sustainable alternative energy sources so that we can address the climate crisis, if you want to actually live in a country that will dismantle the prison industrial complex, that is literally locking up black and brown, lots of people, but really targeting black and brown youth in this country and treating them as a commodity to be privatized, if you want to live in a country with guaranteed access to health care as a fundamental human right, see, if you want to live in that world, not just talk about it, if you want to live in it, my challenge to you, Reg, you and every one of your viewers and everyone in the community that you're part of has got to be willing to have the courage to vote for that. Mm-hmm. Mm. That's my rant.
Yeah, you got a lot. We had animated applause and amazing things happening. I don't know if you can see the chant, but there was a lot of excitement about what you were saying. Kissed Vegan said, "Well said, David." There were, I think there's some points that are some points of disagreement, and if there are, I would hope that people could pose them as a question so that we could ask that of David. We've got David Cobb here, who's the campaign manager for the Stein Baraka campaign. So glad to have you here. While we're waiting to see if anyone has some questions, I just feel like, and I don't know where this lives right now in the campaign and lives right now with what's happening for all of you out there on the road, but I just don't think it would be, I don't think I'd be forgiven without bringing up just where the issue of animal rights exists as a platform, as part of the platform in the Stein Baraka campaign.
So, yeah, thank you for that. I will admit, remember, I just took over as campaign manager on September 1st, right? Mm-hmm. So I will admit that animal rights is one, as well as disability rights. There are two places where I personally feel like our current candidates are weak, and there are not appropriate positions. We are actually working on those two right now to come out with them. But as a Green Party organizer and activist, I am quite proud of the very good positions that we have on those two issues in the Green Party platform. So I can talk with confidence about the Green Party's platform. And I can also tell you that Stein Baraka does have a position in opposition to industrialized food production and agriculture, which includes an absolute opposition to so-called factory farms. You know, Reg, I grew up in the South and in the country. My papa was a farmer and a small rancher. And I'll tell you, industrial agriculture or so-called factory farms are not farms. It's Auschwitz for chickens and pigs, right? And I will say that and say it comfortably as a representative of the Stein Baraka campaign. So we are absolutely opposed to factory farms and industrialized food production and food distribution systems. I also can tell you that both myself and Jill Stein, although we are not vegans or full vegetarians, both self-identify as people who eat, quote, low on the food chain. And that comes from a place of both ethical considerations around factory farming. It comes out of a consideration of ecology and what, like, I've never met a vegan or a vegetarian who could not much better than I can go through the litany of just how horrific industrialized food production and distribution and a meat-based diet actually is for the environment. So I'll just acknowledge that that is true. And thirdly, it comes out of health considerations, right? Again, I don't need to tell vegetarians and vegans about just how much more healthy for human beings a plant-based diet is. So I'm owning neither Jill nor myself are vegetarians or vegans, but we both self-identify as folks who eat low on the food chain, who eat a plant-based diet, and Jill actually doesn't eat beef at all, ever.
Wow. So I was going to say, while you were answering, we were getting a lot of responses there too. I think people really appreciated your honesty, and I think we have at least one person who felt like you should be running as the candidate. But that's neither here nor there. And of course, you know, and you know, you give us a really strong characterization of the industrial food system, and I can tell you, just based on many conversations, it becomes really problematic trying to frame that issue. And as a vegan and as an ethical vegan, and I consider myself a vegan activist, it is difficult to frame those things. So you know,
Reg, I thank you for that, and thank you for the kind words from your listeners. I can't see the chat, so please do, like, if there are hard questions, let's have the conversation. But I think it's worth pointing out that because you are an ethical vegan and a vegan activist, and I am not, then we actually, you know, we should not fight each other. We should actually recognize that we are in the same current. And it actually, I find it as frankly, a white Southerner who comes out of rural America and who actually comes out of not just working class, but poverty. So this is the thing. Rural poverty is different than urban poverty, right? I mean, they both suck, but they're completely different phenomenons. All I can tell you is this. I have no problem whatsoever on a dime dropping truth bombs on the corporatization of food production and distribution, and how that process has decimated the lifestyle of rural America and of folks who come out of the small farmer and small rancher tradition. Again, you know, as a vegan, you know, I wouldn't expect you to sort of articulate anything positive for small ranchers, but I can and I do. And I talk about the difference in the treatment of animals on a small ranch or a small farm versus the corporatized system of mega, again, Auschwitz for chickens and pigs that actually is there. So I can make a case for the small farmer and the small rancher that probably it wouldn't be appropriate for you to make, right? And so, so I have a different position, and I can articulate a different position and say to you, Reg, and to all of your viewers and the folks who are in this community, I hope that you will see that I, as an individual, and the Green Party as a political party, even if we're not taking the position of perfection or purity that y'all might like. I hope you can at least see us as a party of an integrity and a party that there is enough connection and enough openness to those kinds of conversation where we can actually roll together. I mean, remember, we actually have an animal rights community within the Green Party. I don't think that's true of any of the two corporate parties.
David, that's part of me feels like I don't want you to feel too under pressure, really necessarily to speak for the campaign, because I was really clear. I was clear in asking that I wanted you to come and talk about the importance of third-party candidates, and I think that's happened beautifully. And so I just don't want you to feel too much pressure. I'm not here to come down on you about not being vegan today. Not today.
Fair enough. We can have this conversation, and I hope we'll have that conversation in Detroit, because I'm going to be rolling with y'all at the Pedagogian Theater of the Oppressed. It's on my calendar, so you and I are going to be there, and I'll have that conversation. And I do want to say, Reg, I don't feel like you're coming down on me on the campaign. I do represent the campaign, and if there are questions for Stein Baraka or the Green Party, I'm happy to do it. I'm also happy to tell you this, Reg. I'd love to come back on this program post-election, because I want to be clear about this, that the Stein Baraka campaign and the Green Party is not ending on Wednesday, November 9th, right? We're fighting for every vote, but we are going to continue to be the electoral arm of the growing movements in this country. And remember that recipe of a social movement and an electoral arm.
Oh,
I'll
yes.
tell you this, there are movements happening in this country that I've never witnessed in my 25 years as a social change agent. There is a level of consciousness, a level of militancy that is exciting to me. And I think that the current movements are either going to transform the existing Democratic Party or, and more likely, are going to destroy it, and something else is going to come. And I mean that sincerely. And I don't think that the Democratic Party is going to allow these movements to transform the Democratic Party. And I want to name them before we end. And I've got more time if you can stay. But I'll say this. These movements are Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, the Move to Amend campaign against corporate constitutional rights, the climate justice movement, the movement to abolish the prison-industrial complex, Standing Rock, the campaign against the corporatization of the education system in this country, the animal rights movement. I mean, these movements are getting larger, stronger, better organized, and frankly, these movements are recognizing that the leadership of the Democratic Party is part of the problem. And folks saw that when they attempted to support Bernie Sanders in the Democratic Party's primary and saw what the leadership of the Democratic Party was willing to do. They were willing to cheat, lie, and steal to prevent a genuine progressive from being the nominee of that party. And I'll tell you, Reg, that didn't surprise me. You know why? Because I worked on Jesse Jackson's campaigns in '84 and '88. I worked on Jerry Brown's campaign in 1992, and I learned a lot on those campaigns. As a white person, I learned for the first time what it really meant to put myself under the leadership of people of color. I learned how to build alliances between environmentalists and organized labor and women's groups. I learned the importance of foreign policy, and frankly, Jesse Jackson taught me about Palestine and the horrors of that. I learned about apartheid, so I learned a lot of important lessons. But you know what? Another important lesson that I learned, Reg, and that's this.
Come on.
The Democratic Party's presidential primary process is where progressive movements and politics goes to die. Wow. Because all of the energy and enthusiasm and excitement that gets built up within that process is squashed by the leadership of the Democratic Party, who were ultimately paid for and supported by Wall Street America, corporations, and the rich billionaire class and the ruling elite. So I came to the conclusion that as hard as it may be to form an alternative political party, and it is hard, the structural barriers of ballot access and exclusion from the debates and corporate media not covering you and the two-party system of voting and et cetera, et cetera. As hard as all that is, I came to the conclusion that it would actually be more effective and more likely to get to the world of peace, justice, democracy, and ecology that I want to live in by creating a political party based on those ideas than to work within the corporatized, completely corrupt Democratic Party where corporate cash and the ruling elite have become a cancer that is mastatized within the body politic of the Democratic Party. Because I'll end it with this. The leadership, progressive liberals and progressives have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite. Where are we? The ruling elite of the Democratic Party who are taking their money and their marching orders from Wall Street corporations and the billionaires. But there's another corollary to this that we ought to consider. Principled conservatives have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite of the Republican Party, who are taking their money and their marching orders from the same damn corporations, Wall Street America, and the billionaire class. At the end of the day, ordinary people have got to find ways to come together to create new institutions, and those institutions mean new ways to live, work, and play together. New ways to have employment, new ways to have housing met, new ways to have food production and distribution met, a whole new society, and a new political system that is no longer tied and controlled by corporations and the billionaire class.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. So there's again, I'm getting, all kinds of now. I think a lot of folks are kind of jumping on and excited about, having you here as a guest. One question that came was just I was asked to ask you about the position on nuclear energy. Mm-hmm. Thoughts about nuclear energy?
Yeah, so the Green Party and the Stein-Baraka campaign believe that the idea of nuclear energy is actually a fool's errand. We are absolutely opposed to nuclear energy because we do not believe it is safe, and we do not believe it is sustainable. And so we are opposed to the idea of nuclear energy production. We believe and are committed to creation of genuinely sustainable energy production and distribution models that start with solar power, that include wind power, geothermal power, tidal power, and a mass conservation plan that will actually shift us away from coal, oil, and nuclear energy.
Thank you for that answer, and I hope that was satisfied the questioner. So one thing, I'm getting a lot of pressure, and actually it's not even pressure because I like to do this. I'm going to do something for you because you've done, I think, coming on and spending some time. I'm sure the campaign is popping right now, and you guys are busy. You were on a call. You jumped off the call to come and be with us today, so I hope everyone understands that having you here was really meaningful, and there was a slim chance, but you got here. So the way I'm gonna say thank you is I'm gonna help you go vegan.
Well, yeah. as a Texan,
that's what the last guy said.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, as a Texan, when you say you're gonna help me go vegan, I'm going to say you've got a tall order ahead of you.
Well, I'm a tall man.
I know. I remind you, we did meet actually for a hot second in Detroit. So I do remember.
Oh, at the Social Solidarity Economy Forum.
That's right.
Of course.
That's okay. Like, you were more memorable to me than I was to you, but I ain't mad. Like,
okay.
I ain't mad. But I will tell you this. I look forward to not only personal conversation with you, Reg, and I mean that sincerely. I'm going to see you in Detroit again for the Pedagogy and Theater of the Oppressed. And all y'all out there, y'all come. That's going to be amazing. Here's the last thing I'd like to do signing off.
Come on.
What I would like to do is see if we can schedule a time where there's a longer conversation where you can let your folk know that I would be coming on as a formal representative of the Green Party. And let's go deep, right? And let's actually have questions. And I'll get set up where I can read the chat line, because what you'll find is that the Green Party is a party of a different kind. Yes, we do run candidates for office, but Greens are just as likely to be found on the front lines of struggle for the environment, for worker protection, for women's rights, for queer rights, and for animal rights. So I'd like to actually get into a process where we engage one another in a way, and let me prove to you that this ain't just about trying to get you to vote Stein-Baraka. although I do think that you should vote Stein Baraka. But let's build in 2017 and beyond. And the last thing I'll say is this. When I say vote Stein Baraka in the Green Party, consider this. If you want systemic change in this country and you're voting for corporate candidates, you are actually wasting your vote. Don't waste your vote on a failed two-party corporate system. Invest your vote in a movement for real change. Invest your vote in the only party and the only candidates who are willing to call out the racist, sexist, class oppressive, and ecological systems in which we live and calling for transformational revolutionary change.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you so much, David. David Cobb, y'all.
Bye.
Bye now.
We'll be back.
Yes, you'll be back. You'll be back. Bye now. All right. I know I do this every time, y'all, but woo! It was hot in here. First of all, I'm so grateful to Brian and Maureen and David and all of you who came out to watch the live stream today. I hope you feel like you got your money's worth. In case you were interested in what I'm drinking today, I'm drinking a smoothie with banana, frozen mango, apple, and some harvested dandelion greens just from across the street. Woo! Yeah, Vegan Sista, this was great today. Yeah, so hold on. So the vegan anarchist, you're here. I see that you wanted to guest. We're actually 12 minutes past the broadcast time, and I scheduled my day tight, y'all. So Ethan is actually in a show today, so I have to get ready to go out and catch him in a show. But I think that we will definitely. I'm going to figure out how to get David back to talk a little bit more. If it's not before the campaign, maybe after, to just talk about movement building and the Green Party's role in building social movements when it's not election time. Thanks for becoming a fan. Play R3 Wind. So Ariel is. Juice, is that you? Are you here, Juice? I see Just Glowing Me is here. We didn't get to hear from a lot of our regulars. We didn't get to hear from Mad Blender today, but I want to please do go check out. Mad Blender has a video on the topic of third-party candidates. David suggests calling them alternative candidates. Gee whiz, it's just been an amazing day, and I was so busy in it that I didn't even really get through. This is not even the last of the smoothie, but I don't think I'm going to finish it today with you guys. So that said, we'll be back next week, and again, as I said, my thinking is that we want to talk a little bit more of like the worldview of the U.S. and the U.S. elections, as if we're the center of the world's attention. How arrogant of me, right? So apologies if I come off as arrogant, but I think it's nice to know. Yes, much love, and I don't know if that's David or Ruthie saying much love, but really much love to all of you. As I say, that's it for you watching on YouTube. That's it for this video. Like it if you like it. Share it, comment, subscribe. This is Reg signing off. Love yourself. Peace.